now we're going to hear from our next speaker for the day. And Barry, I've known Barry since 2003, since I did the Landmark Forum. And Barry at the time was what we call a seminar leader. He was running the Landmark Forum in Actions, the 10 series seminar that followed the Landmark Forum. And if you haven't done the Landmark Forum, it's a 3.5-day course, which I highly recommend you do. Truly transformational, change your life, right? So that's how I met Barry. I turned up at one of these evenings at the Greek Club, and there was this bloke sitting on his blue pedestal chair on the stage, and I really liked what he had to say about Landmark at that point in time. And Barry's trained in many faculties of speaking, public speaking, relating to people, and personal skills. And over our relationship with being a seminar leader in the Landmark Society, I started getting to know him better, and then I found out we had a common interest, which was property, right? And Barry's been involved in many things. You've been a pilot before, is that right? And he's an engineer by trade as well. And in the last, how many years have you been involved in property? 20?
Oh, too many.
Too many?
25.
25 years, yeah. So he's been involved in developing IGAs, Bunnings, Woolworths, involved in the Coles at the moment, high-rise buildings, in North Quay back in the 80s and 90s, I think. So the list goes on. In the flyer you may have seen Barry's resume, but it just goes on and on and on and on. And it's like 2 or 3 page resume of just the projects that he's involved in. One on Coronation Drive, 70 units. It's at View. FKP did 2 buildings, and they did the 3rd one. There was one Savannah Woods. Savannah Heights.
Yeah, that was the old name, right there.
Yeah. The 400 lot land subdivision at Ipswich, and we had a coffee one time, and they just bought it off. So West Point, a company that's now defunct, now they've signed a contract to settle this big land subdivision, and Barry and his guys had just gone inside the contract. Now the deposit itself, 5% deposit was $700,000 for the deposit. It was a $15 million buy. Is that right? Yep, and yeah, I just remember nearly falling off my chair. We were talking about that kind of stuff. So these are the kind of projects that Barry's been involved in, and you'll notice today I'm really just going to focus on the key points for yourself. When Barry's going to be speaking, I'm going to be pulling out a few key points for you to make applicable to your own situation, because I know that some of you may think, oh wow, this is too big, this is not for me. That's not the whole point of today. The whole point of today is what can I glean from this information that I can relate to myself. Yeah, because down the track you may or may not be in that position to do those kind of projects, but there's so many lessons in here that Barry will just talk about them flippantly, but I'll point out a few things that will relate to your situation, because I know a lot of you what you're involved in at this point in time. So. And so the first part, what Barry's going to cover, is commercial property, right? And the market at the moment is very, very tough in the commercial sector. However, there's ways and means of making it work, especially with the cash flow strategies that they employ in the commercial sector. And Barry's, like I mentioned before, been involved in IGAs and Woolworths and Coles and Bunnings, and all of them have a handful of common elements which he'll draw together to kind of make it clear for you. Right? So without further ado, please make welcome Barry Money.
Thanks, John. G'day. So firstly, I really acknowledge you guys, and I want to congratulate you on taking the step to get yourself an education in property, because if you think an education is expensive, try dealing and developing a property without one. So you really want to take on everything that's presented in this, because it's all pretty powerful stuff. And the thing is, as you I'm sure you're getting to understand, there's a lot involved in this stuff. It really is complicated. It's complicated. It's complex. And the people who are successful in developing properties are the ones that really get into that nitty-gritty and get the details that other people miss. So as I said, we're going to spend some time initially talking about commercial property. So who's interested in commercial property, or like maybe down the track you'd like to have shopping centres and office blocks and okay, good. So as I said, my background initially is an engineer. I've got a degree in civil engineering, and I practiced as a consulting engineer for many years, and most of my engineering work was in structural design. So I designed quite a few of the older high-rise in Brisbane that got developed in the 80s and so on. And then over a period of time, you know, with some of the clients that we had, such as the Forex Brewery and some of the racetracks, they were, you know, the brewery was always building buildings and things, and they wanted us to manage the process. So somehow I got lumbered with the job of managing the developments and getting the approvals, and so I sort of gradually drifted from being a structural engineer to a project manager. So it was never really anything that I planned, but it just, you know, it just happened. So, and then, you know, over time got more into the commercial side of things. So pretty much now what I do is manage the design and development and construction of mostly shopping centres. So at the moment, a couple of projects I'm managing, and you know, we'll speak a little bit more about these on the way through, but we've got one up in Toowoomba, the old Wilsonton Shopping Centre, which is just near the airport in Toowoomba. That's an old centre that's been developed gradually over about 30 years by Clyde Berghofer. And we're just in the process of refurbishing some of the older buildings there and putting a new Coles supermarket in. And up at Morayfield, we've also got the super centre there at Morayfield, which is a bulky goods centre, and we're about to plonk a Woolworths supermarket right in the middle of it. So they're the things that I'm working on at the moment. You know, trying to get the things over the line. We've got the Coles in Toowoomba just ready to start. As soon as I can get an operational works approval out of the council up there, which should be soon, hopefully. And the Woolworths in Morayfield, it's still a few months away, so we're just in the process of starting the design. So anyway, without further ado, let's get into it. So this is an introduction to commercial property, and you're going to get a lot of stuff thrown at you. Right? So my advice is, you know, just don't get stuck on something. If you know, like if you don't follow it, we'll have a question and answer session. I'll be here for a while, so in the breaks we can discuss it. So, yeah, as I said, there's a lot of aspects to this, and my intention here today is to give you some places to go look and do some work. So, whilst I'm not going to have any handouts because it would just get too voluminous, all of the stuff that I'm putting up here, I'm going to give to Young on a stick, and he'll burn copies for you or email it to you, or he'll distribute it somehow. So you'll get all the PowerPoint presentations, all the PDF things and everything. Okay, so you can take notes by all means, but don't get hassled if you miss some detail. Okay. So commercial property is a little bit different to residential property. So when you look at residential developments, then Ross talked a bit about this morning. So how do you see that residential developments are valued? Like, units and houses and so on.
Based on the marketplace?
Yeah, the marketplace, mostly, yeah. See that residential property is typically valued by reference to comparative sales and, what you paid, how much value you added, did you refurbish the house and so on. So, residential property, like the values can be a bit clouded because in a residential market you've got owner-occupiers and you've got investors, and they have a different view to those things. Right? So someone who absolutely falls in love with a house might be prepared to pay way more than you as an investor who wants to do it up or move it sideways, knock it down and build a block of units or whatever. Okay. Excuse me. So commercial property is a little bit different. It's pretty simple. The most basic terms of the value of a commercial property is equal to the net rent divided by the capitalisation rate. Full stop. So who's ever heard of that expression, capitalisation rate? Okay. Don't worry if you haven't, because we're going to spend a bit of time working on it. So the cap rate is the ratio between the net operating income produced by an asset and its capital costs. That's the original price paid by the investment, or ultimately its current market value. And it's calculated like that. Annual net operating income over cost. So, a simple example, if a building's purchased for $1 million and it produces $100,000 in positive net operating income, that's the amount left over after your fixed costs and your operating costs. During 1 year, then, the cap rate in this example is $100,000 over $1 million, which is 10%. But the other thing too, if you bought it 10 years ago for 200 grand, your cap rate is 50%. Okay? So it's a market rate. So in commercial real estate terms, as I said, mostly I work in retail, in shopping centres. So, when we're talking about a value of a property, we might be, looking at different shopping centres and different locations. We don't normally talking in pure dollar terms, but you know, we'll use expressions like, well, that share in Toowoomba is, you know, 700